Welcome, my name is John, and I'm just here to discuss movies on the YT. And if you'd like to join that discussion, go ahead and smash that subscribe button and hit that notification bell as well. And today, I am continuing my Monster Movie Monday review series that leads up to Godzilla vs. Kong. And this week, I am talking about the 1976 remake of King Kong, starring Jeff Bridges and Jessica Lange, and directed by John Guillerman, I believe. And so, let's get started. So in 1976's King Kong, this employee for Petrox, an oil company, discovers this hidden, mysterious island that he believes has a bunch of oil in it that they can use to grow rich, to become rich. So he travels to the island, finds no oil, but he finds a gigantic ape. And so he brings that back for advertising or whatever to make money off of King Kong until he escapes and, climbs up a tower and then gets shot down like the typical King Kong story. And so, getting started, talking about the action, I think when you compare it, I'm going to be doing a lot of comparisons to the 1933 original, which I have also seen. And I think from a technological standpoint, there's a lot of advancements in the 76 version, especially when it comes to the action. But I never found the action quite as engaging as I did in the 33 original. And a lot of that, I think, has to do with kind of some issues I'll have when we get into the visuals section of the review. Don't get me wrong, there's still a lot of fun action sequences here, like the snake fight. It feels a little dated, but it's still quite a bit of fun. And then when he gets on the top of the Twin Towers, there's some nice moments involving planes, and when he gets shot down that I really did enjoy. But overall, I just didn't find the action quite as engaging as the original. And now moving on to the acting and the characters. Now this is a segment that for the most part, I actually enjoyed more in this 76 version than I did in the original version. And part of that's because I'm a big Jeff Bridges fan. I like seeing him in kind of this anthropology, paleontology role that he's in. And then you get like Jessica Lange's character. Some of it feels a little cheesy at times, but I did really enjoy her character more than, I believe, Fay Wray from the original. But the one thing about this movie that I really enjoyed a lot more was the character of King Kong. I feel like he had a much more emotional development in this movie, especially when it comes to the Beauty and the Beast relationship between him and Jessica Lange. I just found his character much more meaningful in this version in terms of his characterization than I did in the original. There's one element of the acting and characters segment that I thought the original was much better at, and that is kind of the person that drags these people there. Because in the original, you kind of even got some development with Carl Denham when he originally is just after like the money and the big ticket entertainment money. But by the end, he kind of regrets what he's done and stuff. I didn't fully get that. You get it a little bit with the Petrox guy, the Petrox leader on the boat. I've only seen this movie once. His name's kind of escaping me at the time, but he doesn't fully seem to have as much development with him. And just, I kind of liked the Robert Armstrong portrayal of Carl Denham a little more than the Petrox guy in this movie. Moving on to the visuals, I kind of mentioned this a little bit in the action that I was going to talk about this here. And a lot of my issues with this movie compared to the original, even though I will get into later on some things I actually think this movie does a lot better than the original. But for when it comes to the visuals and the cinematography, I thought the original did a much, much better job at portraying and showing the story from a visual standpoint. For instance, especially when you get into like the third act and they're in New York, the best example I can give is when King Kong climbs the towers. In this movie, when he's climbing the Twin Towers, it's not necessarily a close up of climbing, but it's not a wide enough shot. You don't get a full scale look of him climbing the towers. Whereas in the original, you get this nice, like, shot or animation type of thing that they do, where you actually get to fully see the Empire State Building and see King Kong scaling it and climbing it to the top. You don't get like an iconic visual like that from this movie where he's climbing the towers. And that's just an example. That's the biggest example I can think of. There's other examples where I think some of the cinematography was a big downgrade from the original. One thing that is obviously better in this movie, since it's like 43-ish, I think, years after the original, is just the special effects technology is much better. But I don't think they fully use it because, like in the original, you get a bunch of monster battles when they cross through the gate, and here you just kind of get one snake battle and that's it. Now getting into the story and the writing, this is the segment of this review where I actually think it's much improved on the original, mainly because I don't think the original did a great job showcasing development between King Kong and Fay Wray. Whereas this one, I think they do a nice job. They show a lot of moments. Some of them might be a little too long, like they could have cut out the blow-drying sequence from the shower scene, but from the waterfall shower scene. But overall, they did a much better job developing the relationship between King Kong and Jessica Lange in this movie than they did with King Kong and Fay Wray in the original. And then just overall, I think this movie has a lot more relationship development with its characters. I think this movie has a lot more heart. I don't necessarily think it harps on the Beauty and the Beast theme as much as the original. And one thing that I think really holds it apart from the original is the development between Jack and Dwan, Jeff Bridges and Jessica Lange. I think their relationship is really what sells this movie and this version of King Kong, because I kind of love their relationship in this movie. And I also love the dynamic between Jeff Bridges and Charles Grodin's character in this movie and their back and forth. I think it works much better than like the Carl Denham and his relationship with like his crew members and stuff in that movie. And then lastly, the sound. This is also one of the big bright spots for this movie. I think it's got a magnificent score. I do think there's some elements like I'm not a big fan of King Kong's roar in this particular movie, but I think overall the sound quality is really good, especially when you're talking about the score and the musical score in this movie and how it helps with like the emotional impact and the emotional weight on the movie. It just goes so well with that. So overall, I know this review is kind of somewhat turned into a comparison between the original and the 76 version. But I will just say, I think if you want a classic Hollywood take on King Kong, go with the original 33 version. If you want a version with a slightly more updated special effects, and that's more important to you, and maybe a little more heart, even though the visuals and action might not be as engaging, then I'd go with the 76 version. But spoiler alert, for a future review on this channel, I would recommend the Peter Jackson version over both of these. That being said, I still think the 1976 remake of King Kong deserves a 4. So go ahead and tell me your thoughts on the 76 version of King Kong as well as the 1933 original in the comments section down below. And if you enjoyed this review, go ahead and smash that thumbs up icon, smash that subscribe button, and hit that notification bell as well to stay up to date and make sure you don't miss my future Monster Movie Monday reviews. And next week, stay tuned because I'm going to be talking about a giant moth.